The last passenger. The train appeared on no official timetable. It crossed the northern mountains once every 25 years, always on the same autumn night, and always at exactly 2:17 in the morning. No railway company admitted that it existed, no station displayed its destination, and no photograph had ever captured it. Everyone who boarded returned profoundly changed, if they returned at all. I dismissed the story until I discovered an engineer's notebook inside an abandoned signal tower. Its final pages contained coordinates, astronomical calculations, and a warning written with unsettling composure. The author claimed that the train did not transport passengers across countries or continents. It carried them through realities that had been rejected, erased, or forgotten. On the appointed night, I climbed to the ruins of the final station. Dense fog drifted across rusted tracks that disappeared into the darkness. Every clock on the platform had stopped at 2:17. My wristwatch froze the instant I passed through the broken gate. A vibration emerged from beneath the rails. The steel began to glow with a pale silver light. The fog divided into two perfectly straight walls, revealing a railway line that had not existed before. The train emerged without smoke or mechanical noise. Its polished black surface reflected neither the moon nor the landscape. Every window appeared dark, as though the interior absorbed light instead of producing it. There were no identification numbers or company emblems. The train stopped precisely in front of me, and its doors opened without a sound. Inside, every seat was occupied. The passengers sat motionless with their faces lowered and their hands resting upon their knees. Their clothes belonged to different decades. One man wore a military coat from the First World War. A child in a faded school uniform stared at the floor without blinking. I entered because turning away felt impossible. The doors closed behind me, and the train began to move. The platform vanished instantly. Beyond the windows, the mountain had disappeared. In its place stretched an endless black plain lit by distant structures beneath transparent oceans. The passengers remained completely still. I examined their faces and noticed that none of them were breathing. I found a narrow compartment containing a brass desk and a wall covered with paper tickets. Each ticket displayed a name, a date, and a destination. The dates were impossible: London, 2049, Prague, 1891, New York, 2033. One ticket had been placed separately beneath a glass cover. It carried my full name. Its destination was described only as the life that should have been mine. The train entered a tunnel, and the lights faded. When illumination returned, the passengers had raised their heads. Every face was mine. Some versions were older, scarred, or visibly wealthier. One wore a wedding ring I had never owned. None looked directly at me. Instead, they stared through the windows at scenes unfolding beyond the glass. I saw alternative versions of my childhood, each altered by a single decision. In one, my father survived the accident that had killed him. In another, my family left the country before an economic collapse. I watched myself become a surgeon, a criminal, a politician, and a man living anonymously beside the sea. The train was not showing fantasies. It was revealing lives that had existed somewhere and had been discarded whenever I made a different choice. Memories from my real life began to weaken. I could recall my mother's face, but not the sound of her voice. I remembered attending university, but the subject I had studied had vanished from my mind. I understood the danger too late. The train did not merely reveal alternative lives, it exchanged them for pieces as the passenger's identity. The longer I watched, the less certain I became that the life I remembered was truly mine. Another door opened onto a carriage containing a single seat beneath a bright white lamp. Above the seat, an electronic display showed the number 23. It decreased to 22 as I approached. It was not counting minutes. It was counting memories. The number fell each time I attempted to recall something important. My first day at school reduced it to 21. The name of my closest childhood friend brought it to 20. When I tried to remember my father's funeral, the display dropped twice. I stepped away from the illuminated seat. The door behind me no longer led to the previous carriage. It opened onto a corridor lined with mirrors. The reflections did not copy my movements. One version of me smiled. Another covered its face. A third pressed its hands against the glass as though it had been imprisoned behind it. As I continued, the mirrors displayed unfamiliar lives. I saw myself raising children I had never known. I saw myself standing beside graves from the future. In one reflection, I was the engineer who had written the notebook and hidden it in the signal tower. The engineer had not discovered the train. He had been another version of me attempting to warn me. At the end of the corridor, I entered a circular chamber that could not physically have existed inside the train. Railway lines spread beneath a transparent floor like veins. Each line passed through a different fragment of reality. At the center stood a machine filled with paper tickets. They moved through brass wheels and vanished into a furnace that produced no heat. I recognized names belonging to people who had disappeared without explanation. The train targeted people who were dissatisfied with the lives they had chosen. Regret created an opening and the train entered through it. I struggled to preserve the memories that remained. I repeatedly recited my name, but each repetition made it feel less personal. It gradually became a meaningless collection of sounds. A hooded figure emerged. Behind it, the passengers appeared along the chamber walls. They still wore my face. They were not alternative versions of me. They were previous passengers whose identities had been erased and replaced by fragments stolen from others. The figure approached the machine and inserted a blank ticket. My name appeared upon it, followed by the destination permanent passage. The train intended to erase my final memories and use my identity to attract its next passenger. The display fell to 9. I searched for a way to destroy the machine, but it anticipated every movement. It understood fear, resistance, and regret because all three were predictable. Then I noticed its weakness. Every passenger had tried to recover a lost opportunity, reverse a tragedy, or obtain a better life. The machine could calculate every decision arising from dissatisfaction. It could not calculate complete acceptance. Instead of fighting for the life I believed I deserved, I accepted the one I had actually lived. I accepted my father's death, my failures, and every opportunity I had abandoned. I stopped searching the mirrors for a better version of myself. The display remained at 9. The hooded figure hesitated. Cracks spread across the transparent floor, and the railway lines beneath it began separating violently. The machine expelled thousands of tickets. I seized my own ticket and tore it in half. The train seemed to inhale. The passengers opened their mouths in silent terror. The entire chamber folded inward and disappeared. I found myself standing in the original carriage as the train approached the abandoned platform. The doors opened, and I threw myself onto the frozen ground. When I looked back, Every passenger was facing me. Their features had changed. They were no longer wearing my face. The train withdrew into the fog and vanished. I returned home convinced that I had escaped. Some memories never returned. I cannot remember my father's voice. Photographs prove that I once had a sister, but I remember nothing about her. Other changes gradually followed. Railway maps sometimes show lines that vanish when examined twice. Clocks stop at 2:17 whenever I experience regret. On autumn nights, I hear vibrations beneath the streets. 25 years have passed since my journey. Tonight, every clock in my house stopped at the same moment. A pale silver light is spreading beneath my front door, and thick fog has filled the road outside. A paper ticket lies on my desk. It carries my name, the current date, and a new destination. This time it reads, "The life you stole."